Each one of us has a story. For some of us, we live our story very publicly. We share it with other people. But for some of us, we live our story in isolation, very private and very close to our hearts. So I don't know which one you are tonight, but I want to just encourage you to join us in Stories of Hope as our guest tonight shares their journey, what they have gone through, their struggles, and really what has given them strength and what has given them hope. Tonight, my special guest is Jen Wiens, and I'm really glad that you agreed to come and to join me here. I really appreciate that, Jen, because I think that you have a lot to share. And if you're tuning in and if it's like you're just sort of browsing through and you're going through something maybe tonight and it's something that maybe nobody else knows about, I just want to encourage you just to stay with us. If we can just offer any type of hope for whatever you're going through, give us a chance to do that tonight. So Jen, I'm going to ask you a little bit about yourself. Can you share with our audience and tell them a little bit about who is Jen Wiens?
For sure. Well, thank you so much for having me here. I have been going to Soul since 2007, and so it's been very much where I have found community. I've been married for 11 years to my husband, Brad. I have 2 children. Brock is 6 years old and Beth is 4. So young and busy.
They're cute. Cute kids.
Keep me very busy. I work from home, so that is makes things a little bit easier, but at the same time tough.
Do you work full time?
I do.
Oh.
But instead of spreading it out over 5 days,
Yeah.
I can spread it out over 7 days.
Oh, good.
Like basically I can somewhat choose when I work kind of thing.
So you can have the kids around you at that time too then. It kind of works itself out.
Yes, but I try not to because I've found that then I have to really, I can't focus on one thing properly then, and I would rather give most of myself to one thing. So my kids do go to daycare 3 days a week, and then I can focus on work entirely on those days, and then the days that they're home, then I can.
You're speaking the language to a lot of moms that have just gone through teaching their children at home, right? What is that like, especially if you're a mom and you've got a job?
Very difficult.
Yeah, and you're trying to juggle it all. So I'm sure a lot of people can relate to what you're sharing on that level.
Definitely.
Tell me a little bit about your journey. Where would you start on what to me is definitely a story of hope? Where did you kind of start when you found out that there were things going on physically for you, and how did that affect you mentally, right?
I was born with a heart condition, and so it was something of like somewhat seriousness as soon as I was born. I guess I had a hole in my heart that healed over to be a flap. So basically, as growing up, it wasn't super serious, but every year I had to go and get like an echo done to make sure that this flap, while growing, didn't grow faster than my entire heart. Because what would happen is it would block where blood had to go.
Okay.
So where the flap is, the blood goes around it. Okay, so it was never serious, and they kept a really good eye on it. The doctors were great, and as I was growing up, it wasn't more than a yearly checkup issue. The problem began when I started having my children. So it wasn't enough to set off any alarms with my son, but when I was pregnant with my son, it's common practice to get an echo done because pregnancy is so hard on your heart, you're pumping extra blood. They always check that to make sure if you have a heart condition that things are okay. With my son, it was fine, nothing to set off any kind of worry, but with my daughter, it was like almost instantly. Within a couple days, they were getting me into a doctor's office to talk about what it looked like. And and how it was very serious, which was very shocking because I didn't have any symptoms to like it. Symptoms for me to think that there was a problem. Like I felt the same, and they were actually surprised at that because they're like, what we're looking at with the pressure that we're seeing that's going on with the blood in your heart, you should either be getting dizzy or passing out even, and none of that was happening for me.
Wow.
Yeah. So when they decided to announce that this was an issue and that it needs to be fixed, but because that it can't be fixed while you're pregnant. So they didn't think I would actually even make it to the end of my pregnancy because it was so serious.
Okay.
So the plan was to basically get me as close to 37 weeks as possible, have a scheduled C-section, and then do heart surgery a half an hour after that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I remember just like that appointment, I didn't realize that it was as serious as it was. So when I walked out of the doctor's office and I'm sitting in my car, I'm like 20 weeks pregnant or something like near there, and I was by myself because I didn't think it was a serious appointment, and so I didn't want Brad to take off work for something like that. And I was just like, I just was in shock. I just like, how am I mentally supposed to deal with this? Like, how do I have, like, Brock was probably, I think he was two at the time, or 2.5. And so how do I deal with having a child that's a toddler, have a newborn, and then have heart surgery? I was like, I don't know. I don't know how to do this.
How did you make sense of it at that time?
You know what? If anything, I think I might have kind of almost went in denial about it. I think that's how I handled it, and maybe that was an okay thing because it did end up changing. So, so a month later, this was a different doctor that had given me this prognosis, and my actual heart doctor, the one that had been taking care of me for the last several years, he kind of came into the game, and he was like, no, like let's just take a step back. Let's not get all excited about all this. And he was like, I think what would be best is you haven't been showing any symptoms yourself. We need to take that into account. Let's monitor you like very closely. Right. Let's let you have the baby naturally, and then let's look at your heart again like a month later, see what's going on there.
So is that actually what took place? Is that what happened?
Yes.
Okay.
Like they were very the rest of my pregnancy was very monitored, and then even going into labor, like it was very, they wanted to make sure I didn't have like very little pain. So they wanted to make sure I was on an epidural right away so that there was as little strain on the heart as possible.
Yeah.
And the other thing was they were hoping I would have the baby naturally, but I have a tendency to go overdue, and so I went 2 weeks overdue and then needed to be induced, which isn't the greatest, but it you know what, and looking back on it, it was very much a God thing that it worked out that way, because by having to be induced, it was all very scheduled then, and so they were able to actually put me on an epidural before they even induced me. Like I had like probably one of the easiest labors.
Nice. Yeah. Well, you're a very scheduled person from what I know of you, Jen, so that was probably a bonus too.
Didn't like waiting, but yes, it was good to have that. And then they were very prepared to take care of me.
Right.
And
so you have your daughter, and then what happens?
So a month later, they did the appointment and did the echo to see how my heart was looking now that I wasn't pregnant anymore. And they're like, oh, well, things kind of went a bit back to the way they were. It's
In
not,
a good way?
Yes.
In a good way, okay.
So it's not as serious.
Okay.
Like, you know what? Let's give it a year, and we'll do another echo, and we'll see what it does in the year while you are not pregnant anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
So we waited the year, and we did another echo, and they're like, no, it is getting worse. We do need to. It was I was starting to get, I guess, a leak or something, and they were scared that my valve was starting to not open and close completely properly. So they are like, no, it needs to be fixed now. So
what happens for you when they're saying to you, like, you're this mom of these 2 young kids, and they're saying, okay, we need to deal with this. We need to take care of this. What's going on for you in that time?
like, you mean like mentally and emotionally?
Yeah.
I guess for me, I'm like, okay, well then what do I need to do basically to, like, if it has to happen, so what can I do? What do I have control over? And at the time, because with when I was pregnant with my son, first baby made the common mistake of basically like using pregnancy as being able to eat everything. I gained quite a bit of weight with that first pregnancy, and then didn't really lose anything the years following. And so that once I knew that I wanted to be in the best physical shape for surgery, and that was something I had control over.
Okay.
I started taking a lot better care of myself. Like, yeah.
Interesting. So would you say if we come into challenges where we don't have any control, do you think that trying to find areas where we can control things it helps our mental health?
I would definitely say
Yeah?
so. Yeah. I know there's so many things we can't control in this world, and if there is something you can, then like, for me, I just needed to take it and embrace it to move forward, because there was a lot of anxiety with the unknown of the future and what it was going to look like, and what even was going to happen. Like, you know, it was going to be doctors and surgeons that are very, very good at their job, but things still happen, right? And so there was that sense of unknown.
Where did you have the surgery?
In Edmonton.
You did?
Yeah.
So why did you go to Edmonton?
It's Edmonton and Toronto both have they both have very, very good heart hospitals.
Oh, okay.
The Mazankowski is in Edmonton, and it's like specifically for heart surgery. Okay. So they referred me as soon as they knew it was gonna for sure be moving forward, and got me on a list.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have the heart surgery. What changes? Like, this whole thing that you went through, what, if anything, changed in your life through this process? You have the surgery. What happens? What do they tell you after?
So what they did in the surgery was basically just like trim off that little flap so that the blood could flow through properly. So I definitely, like, on day to day, I wouldn't notice a difference. It's when it would be whenever I'm being physically active. So when I started getting more into exercise before my surgery to get myself in better shape and all that, and even before my children, I was I was very active.
Okay.
But I would still get out of breath fairly quickly. And at the time, I'm like, oh, I guess I'm just not in good enough shape. I just always figured that was it, even after running for months, I just figured, oh, I'm just probably just like still not in good enough shape. And like should have realized, obviously it's the heart. It's not like that heart condition went anywhere. It was still there.
Yeah.
But I just didn't like pair the two and two together because I was born with it, right?
Yeah.
So once I had the surgery, it was amazing. Like I remember once I was able to get to the place that I built my strength up where I could start running again, and just being like, oh my goodness, is this how running is supposed to feel like? Where I was able to go further and longer and faster than I had ever, and so that was where I found a big change, just in like energy and like stamina and stuff.
How did the journey affect your faith?
I'll be honest, going through this, I find that I'm still learning from it and still going through this journey. Even though it was 2 years ago, I feel like I am still healing from things and I'm still learning through all of that.
Can you share any of that? Do you feel comfortable sharing any of that, what that looks like?
Leading up to the surgery, I had a lot of fear. Like I didn't want to, but there was just a lot of fear, and I kept trying to give it to God, but it was just felt like it was very much always there, to the point where I struggled with anxiety, anxiety attacks leading up. And I feel what helped me through that, and even though there was all this fear, it was so helpful to have so many people praying for me. That those prayers are definitely what helped me through. And then afterwards, like the fear wasn't there, but because my body was so used to like having those anxiety attacks, I continued to have them.
Okay.
And so just like just having people pray for me so that I could start healing from that as well, like allowing my body to heal and know that it was safe, that it's not in that state anymore.
Do you still have that? Do you still go through that now? Do you still find that you like, does it come up in your life?
Not nearly as much as it did the first couple, like year or 2 years. I think having a community that I've been able to talk to about it, and also pray for me, has helped immensely.
What would you say to somebody that's maybe listening or watching right now and is going through their own maybe private struggle? Maybe they're going through panic attacks, because I think they look different for everybody. Maybe they're going through fear. Maybe you're going through something that you're really fearful of that's maybe coming up, or it's just something that you struggle with every day. What kind of hope could you give to somebody from your own journey that they might be able to find in their own journey? They might find that they can take that and it would be an encouragement to them.
I would say to them that it's not weak to let other people in.
That's good. Yep.
I think that was why it took me so long to start healing mentally and emotionally from that, was because I was scared to appear weak and to be truthful with how hurt I was still feeling inside, or how broken, I guess, that I felt inside. So I would say, share how you were feeling with trusted people, so that they can pray for you.
What if there's somebody, though, that doesn't have, let's say they don't have a community, let's say they don't have friends, maybe they're just feeling, or maybe they do have friends, but they just don't feel like they can actually reach out to them. So in some sense, they're living isolation. Like, where could maybe somebody find a community or find those kind of relationships that you're sharing with me that you have in your life and you've had in your life?
Well, I found mine through Soul, like through Soul Sanctuary, and through our
Life group?
Yes, life
your
groups,
life group?
yeah.
Okay.
and just people I could trust. So that's what I would say.
What is a life group? What is that all about?
A life group is a group of people that meet, like a smaller group of people that meet, that they're a part of the church, but they're a smaller group that meet certain times, that have like-minded.
Yeah.
Like there's ones that are Bible studies, and there's a whole bunch of different options for life groups. I would say that would be a great place to find safety in your in your brokenness.
Yeah. So somebody maybe who's not a Christ follower, do you feel that would be something that they could maybe tap into? Like I know there's, from my knowledge of life groups, there are life groups, it's about doing life, right? And so, I mean, it's not always based around, sitting and taking a scripture. Sometimes it's just doing life. Like there's groups that just have fun together, they eat together, or they watch different, there's lots of stuff out there, lots of material out there to encourage us. So, do you think that would be an intimidating journey?
Yeah, like it's always hard to make that first step, right?
Yeah. It's true, right? Like, we can dream, but until you put the dream into motion, you're just dreaming,
right?
Really.
But as much as it's so hard to make that first step, it's so worth it, though. Like, it's so worth it.
Yeah.
Because, like, just by letting go of having to be the one that's strong, by letting God be the one that's the strength.
Yeah.
It's very freeing, because then that takes a weight and expectations off your shoulders, right? If you trust others, like part of a life group or whatever, with what you're going through, then those are people that can pray for you, and they can take some of that burden from you.
Yeah, and share it. Right? Yeah, definitely. You don't have to feel that feeling of isolation, because I think, even in the city of Winnipeg, there's lots of groups. There's lots of groups that are around the city. If you look them up for different things like addictions or grief, to help you with grief, dealing with grief. These are some of the things that I know that we're looking at here, even at the church. So if there's something that you're going through and you feel isolated, you feel like, nobody really understands what I'm dealing with, I just want to encourage you. Like, there's a phone number on the screen, and there's also a website that you can contact. And I would just encourage you to do that, to reach out, because I think we've talked about community today, and the fact that even in your journey, you really felt encouraged by people that surrounded you.
You shouldn't have to go through your pain alone.
Wow. I think somebody maybe needs to hear that, right? That we don't have to do it on our own. And we can do it with other people that actually genuinely care about what we're going through, what the journey is, and, just listen and encourage you. And if you're a Christ follower, even if you're not, like, to pray for you. I often think going through stuff on our own, like, why wouldn't we go through it with the Lord? Like, why? Even if we're not super strong in our faith, why would we not take that and realize that we don't have to carry our stuff all alone, and take that, what he gives us, which is really a lot of hope. So, Jen, thanks for joining us. Is there anything that you wanted just to leave everybody with?
I would say, like, if you are going through something, like, go through your Bible. There's an amazing amount of verses that are encouragement. Like, I know, there were so many verses that, like, just that I was able to look over and just gave me peace, and helped me through
good.
that.
Yeah.
And put them around your house. Like if you're going through something, that was one of the things, was that the place where we stayed the day before my surgery,
Yeah.
one of my close friends, and I didn't. This was the first time I was in her house. She had verses that were like in fancy writing all over her place.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
it was just like, it was like God just knew that was something I needed. That was like on my you know, my soul just felt so bare, you know, and to have that like almost like soothing water
Yep. Yep.
flow over me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
To just have these verses everywhere I looked,
Yeah.
to just remind me of His promises.
Yeah. That's so good. That's
Yeah.
so good. Thanks for joining us tonight. And again, give us a call or connect with us on our website. Have a good night.